Actor Anthony Daniels first set eyes on the droid that would change his life in George Lucas's office in 1975. This encounter would lead to the role of a lifetime and the creation of an icon. Well said. I read that little blurb from I Am C-3PO, the inside story by Anthony Daniels. I highly recommend anyone who's interested in the goings-on of those original films to check this out if you get the time. I really enjoyed it and learned a lot that I didn't know. Anthony Daniels had a lot of hardships the other actors, especially the actors whose faces we saw the entire time, did not have to go through. Reminded me a lot of like a Boris Karloff having to play the role of Frankenstein. So Mr. Daniels, being the only actor to appear in all 9 films, I believe he's gotten his due over the years. He certainly earned it. And 3PO had a lot of merchandise, so I'm just going to go over today at least what I have in vintage-wise in my C-3PO collection. R2-D2, Chewbacca, Vader. I may do videos with those guys later. But starting off with 3PO, and I'm going to start off with a later item, which is the 3PO collector's case. Now, this came out in 1983, around Return of the Jedi. The Vader collector case is probably one of the most recognizable pieces of vintage Kenner Star Wars that there is, and those were mass-produced. They're pretty easy to find. The 3PO is not as easy to find and often suffers from a lot of scratches. And so this one is in pretty good shape. You can see he's got stickers applied where you would match up your action figures in their home. Snap it up so I don't get this down too often. Try not to get any fingerprints on him too often. So in 1980, Kenner Toys released a large size action figure collection. And my mother made sure we had them all. And I remember ripping open Chewbacca and the Stormtrooper. 3PO obviously was included. Now this is a vintage Kenner box. As you can see, it's definitely got some wear on the top, but the rest of it looks pretty good. I love the days when toys would have actual photographs on them. Some movie photographs on here as well. Such a simpler time, especially for Star Wars. There's very little material, so the canon was pretty easy to understand. 3PO and R2 were our main droid duo, and they were merchandised heavily. So I have 2 3PO figures. I kept the one that's not quite as nice inside. This one is really impressive for his age. He said 1980, and the joints really hold up well. Like this arm is practically new. This one's a little looser, but legs stand up pretty well. And I keep him open on display, and that one inside the box. It's not quite as nice. But there were 12 figures in that line. Mostly ran up to The Empire Strikes Back, Boba Fett. You can find on a Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back box. And IG-88, the assassin droid, was an odd choice for the only true Empire Strikes Back figure from this line. So those go for an obscene amount of money. 3PO's, not the worst from this line. You could acquire one for not too much, but sealed in box, of course, everything's getting pretty expensive. I'll put him back here. So the original Star Wars action figures were not ready when the movie hit in 1977. There was an early bird set for Christmas. They gave out coupons telling kids that they would get their figures when they were available. We'll send you something in the mail, a little mailer promo, just to show you what you will get. So the first 3PO action figure was just this one here. Now he looks like the large one. A suspect to a lot of that gold losing his shine and loose joints. So this one's pretty good. This is an original C-3PO, and I have several of him in different stages. This one is also pretty good. I mean, 3PO, being in all the classic trilogy, heavily featured in all three films, you could make scenes with him in all kinds of things. You could have him on Hoth, you could have him in Dago, on Jabba's palace, you could have him on Tatooine with your Jawas and your Sand People. I started to say that you could have him on Dagobah, but he was never there. So there's that. Now, one of the most memorable 3PO moments, and as a kid I wasn't really happy with this at all, because I really did like the droids, the aliens, and the masked characters, was his encounter with some stormtroopers on Bespin. And because of that, we got a new version of 3PO. Now this is one of my favorite pieces I own of C-3PO. This is an Empire Strikes Back. This is graded, and it's only graded a 5. Very good, and I'll show you why here in a second. Got a free 4LOM action figure offer here. This is the 3PO where the limbs were detached and he came with this net, and you could fit the net on the back of your Chewbacca action figure to recreate the scene in Empire Strikes Back where Chewie is carting around 3PO. In my opinion, this is how 3PO's humor in the films worked best. It was subtle. I really believe in the prequels that they made him far too cartoonish. Things like him interrupting Han and Leia having a moment on the Falcon, the tension between him and Han in general, and the fact that he really wasn't appreciating Chewbacca's efforts as well as he should have in Empire Strikes Back. All those things, that is classic C-3PO to me. And this figure recreated that. I loved this as a kid. You can look on the back here and see we only have 47 figures available at the time. Now what's really interesting to me is that all of these figures, plus the end of the original run, were made available the entire time. They never stopped making any of these guys, except for the original R2-D2 and the original C-3PO, because what happened is they kept updating R2. Now, the original R2 was just a plain astromech droid. The second version has this pop-up telescoping there, and the third and final, I believe, had the pop-up lightsaber. That one's extremely rare, and I don't have it. Last 17. We'll get into that another time. But so anyway, whatever the current R2 was, that was the only one available. So you did have to, if you had missed the original R2, you had to dig in the secondary market to find one, even back then. 3PO was the same. So this original 3PO I have here, with his limbs all permanently attached, was not available after this one came out. So the original 3P obviously is more desirable. Here's one, because this 3PO was also available as a mail-in, kind of like 4LOM here. You would send off to Kenner with your proofs of purchase, and you can see, actually, it's hard to see, but there is the Kenner name here on the baggie. So this is a 3PO that was mailed away and never opened. They came in a little white mailer box. Actually, I have one for the Emperor. So you'd be really excited to see that in the mail as a kid. I did an Ewoks video already, but one thing I really didn't pay much attention to was the throne that comes with it. Now this 3PO here is the original one. He's pretty loose. He doesn't stand up very well. Arms are a little better, but the legs are kind of shot. So I take him. He is my indoor 3PO on the throne that Luke would levitate in order to convince the Ewoks not to eat Han and his friends and Luke himself. Leia was never going to be on the menu, I guess because she was friends with Wicket. Oops. Lots of questions unanswered there, but anyway. So there he is. And the last item I'm going to show today is a curiosity. I think these are great. So in 1980, there was a line of light switch covers. They were called switcheroos. I have a feeling this is fairly rare. I lucked out years ago and got a set of all three of them on eBay. The packaging is there, but I did kind of doctor it so that he's able to stay in. And some people would say, oh, you shouldn't do that, but I wanted to display them in the box. You can see the other two. There was R2, there was Vader, and there was C-3PO. Now, we had the Vader in my bedroom as a kid. Had the C-3PO kind of like in the downstairs playroom on the light switch. And these things stayed up there for decades. You can see up there, this child. That's how it would attach to the wall. And that's pretty much how it looked in my house. So it stayed until all the paint came off the area right there where you would flip the light switch. And when we moved my mother out of that house, I got those off the walls. I took them with me. I still have them put up. They are the C-3PO one is almost unrecognizable for what it is. So I'm glad I do have a nice one in pretty complete packaging to display, and I keep the other one just as a reminder of the times. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed looking at my C-3PO collection. I obviously would like to add a few things like the original Star Wars 77 figure, but the prices on that are putting pieces like that out of my reach. So I'm kind of happy with the ones I have. Anyway, if you enjoy this, there's other characters you might want to see from the classic trilogy, let me know. I have pretty good collections of R2, Vader, the Stormtroopers, Chewbacca. I really loved all those characters back then, so I tried to get as much as I could. So thank you for watching, and I'll make another one soon.